Okay, so today I will be comparing 3 racing super shoes. The first 2 you might be familiar with. First being the AlphaFly 3 by Nike. The other being the Adidas Adios Pro 4. The third shoe you may not have ever seen or even heard of is the Anta C202 G9 version 2. What initially drew me to this shoe, aside from being a shoe sicko, is that I was intrigued by the price. And there's a lot of chatter on the internet about how Chinese racing super shoes are starting to compete with and maybe possibly overtake their Western counterparts. So I did some digging. I went onto the Taobao app and located these, based mostly on appearance. Like, I love the look of these things. And there's a few things that I'll get into that I like upon observation that thought it might be a contender for my next marathon race in Boston. So the first thing that I noticed when I got them, like I said, I got them through Taobao app, and then I had to get a third-party app to deliver them, to ship them to Canada. And the first thing that I noticed after waiting for about 2 weeks to receive them was when I pulled them out of the box was just how incredibly light they are. Like, these are the lightest shoes I own. And to give you some context, I'll weigh them. So the Nike AlphaFly 3 is a very lightweight shoe as it is, okay? Most of these super shoes these days are 200 grams or less. The AlphaFly is 200 grams, 204 grams. Okay, so a 4-gram difference between those two shoes. The Adios Pro 4, 200 grams, 203 grams. So a 3-gram difference between the Adios. The Anta, 165 grams. 156. Okay, for a 9-gram difference. That's kind of a big difference between the two, but you get what I'm saying. This thing is incredibly light. You can feel it in your hand. I am intrigued to see how they feel on my foot. But before we get into that, just going over some overview of the specs of these shoes. So the AlphaFly is a 40 millimeter heel stack height down to a 32 for a 8 millimeter drop. The Adios is a 39.5-ish down to a 33, I believe, if I remember correctly. The one thing I love about those two specs is the forefoot stack. For marathon racing, I'm a mid to forefoot striker. So the more stack in the forefoot for me, the better. That's what I look for in a marathon shoe. If you look at this shoe, I'd love to tell you the stats on it, but I don't know. Anta doesn't list them on their website. There's nothing on the internet about it. But just based on appearance and some measurements with a ruler, they're very similar to the Adios. They measure higher with a ruler. But the thing is, this part of the foam right here, I don't know if you can see that right there, but that comes up above the insole. It comes up onto the upper and almost acts like a support of foam around this part of the upper here. So it could be just a few mils of extra that's not converting onto the ruler. So I'm assuming it's a 40 down to like a 34-ish. Doesn't feel like a big drop, like as much as the AlphaFly. The other thing about this midsole is I don't know what kind of midsole it is. I don't know if it's P-Bax, if it's TPEE, TPU, or whatever. Once again, it's not listed. What I do know is the Adios Pro 4 is very compliant. It's very soft. It's very comfortable, okay? The ZoomX on the AlphaFly 3 is also very soft, but due to the foot pods in the forefoot, it's not as soft and compliant as the Adios Pro 4. It's got a bit of a mechanical feeling is what a lot of people refer to it as. The feel of the foam on the Anta is not as soft as the Adios Pro 4. It is soft, but it's not as soft or compliant as the Adios Pro 4. It feels like it has a quicker rebound than the Adios Pro 4. Less squish, more dense, probably the best way to describe it, and a much quicker rebound. So that's just walking around, putting it on, walking around my basement and stuff like that. So I don't know. We'll see how it reacts on the treadmill. But that I love. The one thing I love about the Adidas is, yes, it's very comfortable. And for a marathon, that's important. But I do feel like I'm losing a bit of efficiency in the squish. Now, I know that this thing's been rated very highly for energy return and efficiency. Higher than most super shoes, maybe even the AlphaFly included. The one thing about the AlphaFly is it's not as comfortable, yes, but these AirPods do give me something extra. Like, I do believe that this is probably my fastest shoe that I own. A case could be made for the Vaporfly 2, which I have my 5 and 10K PRs in, but I don't think I would feel comfortable with taking a Vaporfly 2 or 3 to the full marathon distance, just because of the lack of 4-foot stack. I like that protection. I'm a little bit older, and that's what I look for in a long distance shoe. So this might be the fastest. This is definitely more comfortable. I feel like just on initial step in, this might be a blend of the two. This feels very much like the Adios Pro 3 did, which is my favorite long distance shoe of all time. I have a marathon PR in that shoe. And another thing I noticed about it is the rocker in it isn't quite as early as the Adios. The rocker on this starts a little bit that way, a little bit earlier than this shoe. This one's a little bit more forward, very similar to the Adios Pro 3, which is another thing I find very intriguing about this. There's a couple things that initially have me concerned. They may be unfounded when I get moving in them and taking them out onto the road eventually. The first being the upper. The upper is very, very similar, feels very similar to the Adios. It's not perforated in any way. It almost feels like a firm tissue paper almost. If you know the Adios Pro 4, you know what I'm talking about. So breathability might be the first concern with this. Compared to the AlphaFly, this thing has the best upper of any shoe I've ever worn, racing shoe. Very breathable, very form-fitting. It's like wearing a sock almost. Love the fit of that upper. The upper on this is more akin to the Adios Pro 4. The second thing about the upper is initially sliding my foot in, there's a little bit of touching here on my right side. This thing fits the snuggest like I said, this is very form-fitting, but it's also very compliant in the upper. Like my foot can splay in that, it can move around. There's no, it doesn't impede the way my foot splays. I feel like this might have something going on there, on that pinky toe side. So we'll see how it reacts. The other thing, aside from the upper concerns of this, is the outsole. This is very, very thin. I've read somewhere that it is 0.8 millimeter, which is very thin. It's like, and it's kind of the same material as the Adios Pro 4, feels the same, like a CPU type. Maybe not quite as thick as this. Like this is big time thin. And there isn't much lug to mention here. Like I don't know, maybe it'll just be grippy and grabby like the CPU is on the Adios. I'm unsure. I think a proper road test will be the only way to find out. We'll see how it reacts on the treadmill today. For whatever reason, my treadmill doesn't always have the grippiest. Like certain shoes don't grip well on my treadmill belt for some reason. Like the Vaporfly 3 tends to slip on my treadmill. This might be more of the same. I'll report back later. So those are basic overview of these shoes. Subjectively, I love the look of this shoe more than any other racing shoe I own. Like even though it's pink and purple, whatever, like I just love the shape of it. I actually do kind of like the colors, to be honest with you. The one thing I forgot to mention is the laces. They kind of have that sawtooth type lace that kind of was started by Nike. So they've got an edge over the basic Adidas laces that everybody kind of makes fun of. So yeah, I'll give them a go. What the test is going to be, it's going to be 3 6-kilometer reps on the treadmill, where I'll be monitoring heart rate. I'll even take lactate samples after this, kind of like that's the trend that I've been doing with my training lately. I'm 12 weeks out from Boston, so this will be a good little test of all these shoes, first initial test. So I'm going to start with the Adios. This is my last marathon shoe, so give that a go. Then I'm going to go to the AlphaFly. This is the most polarizing of the shoe. It should be able to indicate the key differences between the Anta and the Adios. So I know what's probably going to happen is I'm going to have some heart rate drift up as time goes by, as that naturally occurs. And I will probably see an increase in lactate from each rep as metabolites begin to accrue. Why I'm putting this last is this thing has to earn its place. I know I can run a marathon in either one of these shoes. I've done it before, and I know they're capable. This thing isn't proven yet. And I know a treadmill test is just a treadmill test. Like I said, I'll do one final test out on the road just to make sure. But for the price of these, being, you know, half of what these cost, like, I don't know, it's intriguing. And that's what we're gonna find out today is, can these things compete with their Western Supershoe counterparts? Here to find out. Alrighty. So that is run done. Shoe test done. Went well. 3 6K reps. Second quality run of the week. 12 weeks out. I think I'm 82 days to Boston. So went according to plan. Started in the Adios Pro 4. Went well. No surprises there. As good as ever. Comfy, smooth. Yeah. Next up was the AlphaFly 3. And you always, like, you really feel the difference switching from the Adidas to the Nike. You really feel those pods. Like, I'm happy I did it that way because it made it very apparent, the feel of the pods. No surprises there. Good grip on the treadmill. And then finished it up with the new Antas. Now, the one thing I was concerned about before stepping on the treadmill was this grip, the outsole, how it would react on the treadmill. Like I said before, certain outsoles just don't do well on my treadmill for whatever reason. Like Vaporfly 3, I don't even use it because it just slips on my treadmill. Same with the Pegasus. I can't use Pegasus on my treadmill for some reason. It just slips. Same story with these. As much as I love the feel, the step-in feel of them, like the smoothness of it, the toe off, it was slipping a bit. So I think that cost me some efficiency. And the other thing I felt towards the end of the 6th kilometer was I always feel in my right big toe like a bottoming out no matter what shoe I use, aside from like a Nimbus. I always feel like my big right toe is digging into the ground, and I felt that very much on this one. Almost to the point where like there was nothing under my right big toe. So I don't know what that means. All that I know is that these things deserve a proper test on the road because I'm still very intrigued with how they reacted. I had my watch set to treadmill mode, which I never do with my watch. I just always go by treadmill metrics and upload it to Strava manually. But I just want to see what ground contact time was for those paces and stuff like that. I'll upload it later after this. But one thing was in the Adios, it was showing my pace at like bang on 4 minute per kilometer pace on my watch. I have a Garmin chest strap that apparently measures GCT and oscillation and all the other stuff, cadence. This had me at the slowest. It was like 4:05 average pace throughout the rep. The Anta had me at 3:55. So I don't know what that means, but I'm going to investigate it further when the road's clear. It's not February yet in Canada. I can't run on the roads right now where I live. I'm in the rural area and like they don't plow out here. It's like ice and snow. So it might be friggin' end of March by the time I actually get out. But anyway, they're going to go back in the box. The way to describe the feel of it is it feels like a Vaporfly 2 with more stack on it. That's pretty much the only way I can describe it, like initial feel, which I love. The only thing, like I said, I really need to figure out is that big right toe. If that gets sorted and this thing reacts well on pavement, it might be the go-to. If not, I might go with the Adios Pro 4. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now. As much as I love the AlphaFly, I don't know. Once again, I'll do another road test with all three again, just to confirm. But this is a fun little initial test and a fun, proper tempo, quality session. First one of the build with some big bites at goal marathon pace. So happy with the session, happy with the shoes. Oh, fueling. I did 1.25 liters, so 1,250 mils of water, 3 salt caps for 750 milligrams of sodium, and a gel every 3K. So in the middle of each rep, did a gel, 30 grams, precision hydration, precision fuel, 30 grams every 3K. Fueling's going well on my long run on Monday, and then this tempo today, Thursday, Feeling great. I love running. Like I said, I'm a shoe sicko, so this is right up my alley. Oh, lactate. The other thing you may or may not be concerned about. Like I had a feeling this would happen. Heart rate drift. First rep, the max sustainable heart rate I saw was 162. I did see some blip ups into like 164, but they were like for a second. If you ever see that on your watch, you know what I'm talking about, where it goes blip, but it consistently maxed out at 162, 165 for the AlphaFlies, and 166 for the Antas. So a slight drift. And then lactate was the same thing. First rep was 2.5 millimole, second rep 2.8, and then final rep was 3.1. Upon completion, I got lactates within 1 minute of stepping off the treadmill, all good samples, which is kind of difficult. Like by the end of the final rep, quite sweaty, and those blood droplets they get really loose. Like when you get sweaty, what you want like a nice little bubble droplet that remains intact. If they get loose and sloppy and flatten out and get like kind of like diluted with sweat, that's a bad sample. But I was able to get 3 good samples that I believe are pretty accurate. This final one might be the closest thing to a slight contamination I had, but I'm calling it legit. So slight drift in heart rate, slight drift in lactate. Yeah, happy with all that. And now I got to take my dog out. I don't know if you heard her. She was just licking my leg. She loves the salt lick. Anywho, shower, dog walk, and I'll talk to you all later.